Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are diving back into the Sin series by Aletha Romig. Now, if you haven't listened to the first two books reviews, those links are going to be available down below in the description section. So once you listen to those and get all caught up, come and join us as we dive into book 3, which is called Gold Lust. We pick up right where we left off. We are starting out from Van's POV. So he's pissed. He's yelling at Albert, who was the bodyguard that actually brought down Julia. He's like, how could you put her in the wrong car? And the guy's like, it was you. Like, it was your face. And he fired the guy because he was so mad. And then Michael came up, and Michael didn't know what was going on. So he filled him in, and Michael was like, wait a minute. So you're telling us that your brother looks exactly like you? And he's like, yes. In his mind, he's thinking that was stupid that he didn't tell his security team. But he didn't say it out loud, of course. And again, this is where this is completely his fault. You didn't tell Julia. That's bad enough, right? But you should have at least told your security team. How are they going to keep you safe if they don't fully know what's all going on? You just saying, oh, my brother's a threat. That's another thing on that security team. How good of a security team do you have that they didn't have a photo of him? Wouldn't that be the first thing they would ask? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So it's just the idea that they didn't ask for it and he didn't give it, but they're supposed to be a top security team. I'm like, that's the main thing you would ask for. He gets a call from Connie, and Connie's like, what's going on? The pilot's waiting for you all. Like, what's the deal? And he tells her Philip's got Julia. She freaked out, but the first thing she said was, I thought this might happen. So she took him seriously from the get go. And for whatever reason, Van didn't think he was capable of this. And I'm just like, why did you not think he was capable? Like, he kept blowing up the phone, which means something's going on with him. You should have taken that as, okay, I need to figure out what's going on with my brother. Because if he doesn't normally call you, but now you're getting multiple calls, something is going on. So I'm like, for someone who is so good at business, he is like a complete idiot. Like, honestly, like, the first thing is you don't underestimate your opponent. So why are you doing that in your personal life? It just doesn't make sense. But anyway, so they've been working with the security at the Waldorf to try and get the license plate, any footage, anything they can get from the encounter. He's calling Julia's phone, but it's going to voicemail. Um, he he called her a few times. But then he called Philip, which I was kind of like, why would you call him? Because now he's going to know that you're on to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not going to pick up the phone. You know what I mean? So I was just kind of like, why? I didn't think that was that smart either. Like, you calling Julia is normal. So now that just seems like you're just trying to find Julia. Not that you think there's something wrong. But if you put him on high alert that you're aware that something's happened, that's a little different, Like, I just thought, I mean, and I can understand you being razzled. The person you love is gone and you don't know how to get them back that fast. I get it, right? You're a little rattled. Okay. But I don't know. I just would have thought he would have thought better and not have done that. But at this point, I don't even know, cuz he's just making all kind of stupid fucking mistakes. So I don't know. So now the security company that he's hired, that the whole company now is working on this. Okay, this is top priority. So he is now going to go to Wade Pharmaceuticals um, to talk to Julia's dad, Greg. So then we switch to Julia. She's in the car, but everything feels off. Like Van is talking to her like he doesn't normally talk to her. He's saying like, turn off your phone. It's just you and me today. And so when she takes her phone out, before it was already on silent, but she saw where there were two calls from Van. And so she goes, well, why did you call me? He goes, well, I couldn't wait for you to get down here. Doesn't make sense, right? Uh, then he took her phone, put it in his pocket. Doesn't make sense. Why would he need to do that? Then he told her there had been a change of plans. They weren't going to the airport. They were getting married today. And he said that, what did he, something else he said. He was just talking to her real reckless. And he's like, you're going to be my wife. You need to get used to how things are going to be. So she knows something's off because this is not how he talks to her. And then he tells her they're going to her parents' house. They're getting married there. And he says, I knew it that, it would upset you in the long run if you didn't have your family and friends there. And he goes, Victoria's going to be there too. Well, remember, Victoria had told Van, call me Vicky. And from then on, he called her Vicky. So she's putting these pieces together. She knows something's off. But yet, when she looks at him, it's freaking Van's face, right? So then he was talking about Miss Mahan, but he said Paula. And we all know Van doesn't call her Paula, he calls her Mrs. Mahan. So to hear him say that, it's just another thing that she's like, what is going on? So then she's telling the driver, she's like, no, take us to the airport. And the driver wouldn't do it. The driver just kind of looked at, you know, Van, and I say that in quotation marks. I was just kind of like, no, that's not where we're going. So then she asked the driver, do you work with Michael? And he just says, like, the guy, Toby, he had an emergency. Toby. Toby's the name of the current driver. And he says Michael had an emergency and Toby's filling in. First of all, it made me laugh because I'm like, Michael and Toby, I love The Office. So that just made me laugh in itself. They pull up to the house. The butler, Arnold, comes out. And before he gets there, Van kisses her, but she feels nothing. Like absolutely nothing. And so she's looking around and he's like, well, we need to go and change clothes. And because he had changed clothes, and she looks at him and she's like, when did you change clothes? He's like, oh, well, I wanted to look perfect for our wedding or some bullshit like that. And again, this doesn't sound like Van. Van doesn't care about what other people think like that, when it comes to certain things. So again, this is just all just very weird. Him saying all this crap to her, again, if she had a known that he had a fucking twin, alert, 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 she would have known, oh, this is clearly his twin. This is not my Van. But again, you don't give her the information, and now she's in something to where this, who she knows is looking at her, right? This is Donovan looking at her. Even though everything feels off, this is his face. So how the hell is she supposed to know that this isn't him? She just knows something's off. And now in her brain, she'd be thinking, okay, maybe now he's just showing his true colors, right? Or he's just a little off today, like anything. But again, oh my gosh, Donovan Sherman just pissed me off with this. He really did. Because he put her in a no-win type of a situation. I shouldn't have to try and figure out if you or you. You know what I'm saying? It's so fucked up. Julia gets in the house. Her mother's like, oh my gosh, you're so excited. You're getting married today, all this type of bullshit. She's like, Van called us and all this, she's just going a miles a minute, you know? She's like, hopefully we have enough chairs for at least 100 people. This is the complete opposite of what she wanted. And then she says to her mother, no, I'm not doing this. Her mother again disregards her, railroads right over her, and just talks right over her. Van comes in, but he's with Marlon Butler and Greg McGrath. And so normally when he sees Marlon, Van's got a tick, something that shows he cannot stand this man because of a history that she doesn't even know about. But she knows that facial expression, and yet she's seeing nothing. So even more so, something's off. She winds up going upstairs with her mom. Again, her mother's not listening to her. Her mother tells her, oh, we're going to use your dress that you were going to marry Skylar in. And I'm like, the fuck? And she's like, um, what did she say? She's told, her mother said to her, well, when I found out that you all hadn't consummated your relationship, it kind of makes sense of why Skylar might have stepped out on you. Men need certain things and all this type of crap. And she's like, wait a minute, so you're blaming me for him cheating on me. And she's like, oh no, darling, I'm not blaming, I'm just equating. This is what happens when you don't. Basically, you need to please your man. So she says clearly that's why you fell for Van. He's older, he's got more moves, right? So then she says to her that she was hoping she would come to her senses, and basically go back to Skylar. Again, Julia's like, I don't want to get married today, you know? And she's like, well, you maybe you now know you don't want to marry Van, but Skylar's still willing to marry you. The marriage license is still valid. He's on his way now. So now the girl feel like she in a whole ass Twilight Zone. And the mom just keeps going. And then Vicky comes in the room, and Vicky has a garment bag, and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you changed your mind about the small wedding. Vicky comes in. She's able to get her mother out. She tells her Rosemary's talking about serving hot dogs with mustard. So the mom gets the hell out of there. So then she and Vicky talk, and Vicky, of course, tells her some tea. We already knew that Beth was staying with the Butlers, but she apparently has been hearing a lot of stuff. And the Butlers are terrified that once Julia gets married to Van, that Van's going to take full control and destroy everything. And then Julia told her what her mother said, which was, how you can marry Skylar still, and all this type of crap. And Vicky was like, you know what? Beth was afraid that was going to happen as well. So she's like, I'm not marrying Skylar. I do not want to marry Van today either. Like, I want what we planned. And she's like, I want to go to Ashland and I want to do it in our cabin. That's what I want. I don't want this today. And she's like, am I like a spoiled brat because of that? And she says, it doesn't matter. You want what you want. You know, this is not what you planned. This is a deviation from what you all planned. And the plans were changed without your consent. And that is not okay. That's period. And then she starts telling her he's a different person. Like, he's so different. And she was like, well, how about if you don't want to get married today, I'll go and get Van and I'll get you to where you can talk to him and you can convince him, you know, that this isn't what you all are going to do today. We switch to Van and he's at Wade Pharmaceuticals. He sees Greg McGrath's assistant, Janie. She's like, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm looking for Greg. She's like, I think it's a little too late for you to be asking for permission to marry his daughter. And he's like, what? So she spills the tea, which I like, because I don't like when people be saying stuff and like running around it. Just fucking say it. So she tells him about the wedding at the house. And that, Greg and Anna announced it today that they were getting married at the home. And so he's freaking out. So he does say there's not going to be a wedding today, but there's probably going to be a show. So then he calls the detectives, or not the detectives, I'm sorry, his security team, tells them what's going on, and calls Lena and tells Lena what's going on and asks her if she knew um, about this plan at all. And she, of course, is like she had nothing to do with it, didn't know anything about it. She's like, I don't have that much information when it comes to him. And he was like, he can't marry her because he's still married to Madison. Like, he can't marry two people. And Lena's like, but if he signs your name, then aren't technically you and her married? Then Lena says, wait a minute. Don't tell me you're about to marry that girl and you haven't told her about Philip. He, of course, can't say anything because that's exactly what his ass has done. We do get a little bit more information because Lena does tell him that Madison had a psychotic break, so she apparently doesn't remember anybody. She doesn't remember Lena, and apparently she doesn't even remember her daughter Brooklyn. So she hasn't really dealt with them in a really long time. He does say that she came to him some years ago asking for help, but something about he basically went into destroy mode because if he couldn't have what he wanted, then he goes into I'm a destroy. So we find out she was really, she was really simple. Remember, she really wanted to read. She liked to paint. Like, she wanted a very simple life. She didn't want grand or any of that type of stuff. So when she met Philip, he's the complete opposite of Van. But it's like you get Van's face, but you get the simpleness. But I guess Philip apparently had some ulterior motives. It sounds like there's always been this envy. Um, so hopefully we'll get to find out more of that soon. But piece by piece, we're kind of peeling back these layers. So then Lena says, I should have stepped in more so back then before I let you all do what you did to her. And it kind of hit him when she said it, but apparently it's the truth, and he knew it. He's not the sole reason, but he is a huge part of what happened to the girl. So he does admit he was obsessed with her. Um, so if you want someone and they don't want you and you just keep after them, yeah, I can see how that could turn into a really awful situation. Um, but anyway, he calls Michael again, and they're gonna find a back way into Julia's parents' house. Julia is letting them do her hair. She's waiting for Vicky to come back to bring Van. Well, she comes back, Vicky does, but it's only with a gift from Van, which was some pearls. That's it. He wouldn't come with her. So then her mother comes in and she's got a photographer who's outside who's doing capturing all the moments before the wedding. So she's telling the girl, oh, she needs makeup and all this type of stuff. And then Julia finally goes, this is not happening. She gets up, she runs out. She sees Skylar. Skylar took her, I think, into I want to say one of the guest rooms, and he tells her he knows there's some plan that's supposed to be going on. He tells her pretty much the same thing Beth was saying, um, what Beth had told Vicky, which was that she was going to, they were going to try and get her to marry Skylar, and he knows that she loves Van, and he's like, pretty much like he doesn't want to get married either. He's like he'll help hide her. So he hears the mother calling, so he goes outside and acts like he's been waiting, and he goes, oh, if you can't find her, I'll join the search party, right? So then after he goes ahead and leaves, then she sees Van. But when this Van comes up, she feels it, that magnetic pull, it is there. And that was missing earlier. So he grabs her. He's like, are you okay? And she's like, I'm fine. He's like, fuck, He's like, I'll explain everything later. Um, and, she better than me because I'd be like, As soon as we get out of here, because I mean, they do want to try and get out, right? You gonna start fucking talking, seriously. So he's bracing for a fight. He's not ready to, like, just leave, but she wants out of here now. And when she looks at him, she says she realizes this is the outfit from earlier, and he doesn't have this overpowering cologne. And then so she looks at him and she says, "There's two of you." So they leave out, and before they leave out, they get stopped by Rosemary, the house manager, Arnold's wife. And Van is thinking, like, if she tries to stop me, like, we're going to have a problem. But she wasn't. Her and her husband have always thought of Julia as their child. They've always looked out for her, always been very loving towards her. And so they were just like, you take care of her. Don't ever try and stifle her, let her fly. And he said, I'll do my best. So they get out the back, and they're able to get out because earlier the butler, is his name? It's Arnold. He was able to kind of cause a commotion so that the people couldn't see Julia and Van coming down the stairs and stuff. So they get in the car, and she was just like, I knew something was wrong. Like, he wasn't listening to me, and you always listen to me. She was like, he kept trying to force me to marry him today, and I just didn't understand it. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. There's so much I got to tell you. I'm sorry, all this type of stuff. And she's like, it's okay. We're together now. That's all that matters. She's like, I want to go back, to our snow globe. And so they go back to, and they're headed towards the plane. And I get that a lot has happened, but bitch, you need to stop talk. You need to start talking. I'm sorry. I need an explanation as to what the hell I just had to endure. So then, as they're on the way to the plane, his phone keeps buzzing. He answers it because Miss Connie, his assistant, and she finds out that there apparently are police on their way to the plane to search it. And so they don't know what's going on. He tells her, get a law firm in Chicago to handle it, but they're just gonna drive to Ashland. So Michael and Albert are gonna drive them back to Ashland. On their way, while they're driving, they didn't talk much at first about the situation. She didn't push it. But then once they got to, like, about maybe 5 hours outside of Ashland, they stopped to get some food, and that's when she started kind of asking questions. So he's telling her he was terrified, but he was like, I'll talk. I just need you to promise me that you won't leave me. Because what I'm going to tell you, I've done some bad shit. And so she's like, I'm not going to leave you. You know, just tell me what you did. And so he says the name Madison. Girl feels some type of way. She always knew it was something with this name more so. And so it's like, oh gosh, here we go. Um, he tells her about the picture on the mantle that was in his office. She asked him, why do you have a picture of your brother and her? And he said, I don't know. Maybe it's just to torture myself. And I'm like, okay. He did admit that at one point he was obsessed with her, that he took the pearl necklace that she originally had. He gave her a diamond one before she got married to Philip. And then she told him that the Philip had sent her a pearl necklace via Vicky upstairs at the house. And he's like, yeah, that was a message. And oh, I also forgot, they found out that there was a warrant for Julia Sherman. So I guess it's again with some type of small stall tactic to keep them tied up and keep them trapped in Chicago. So it worked out that once he knew there was an issue, he's like, "Nah, we just gonna drive back. We just gonna drive back." Um, he tells her, I did a lot of bad things, hurt a lot of people, all this type of stuff. They weren't done talking. She left, and when she came back, he was looking at the phone. It was a headline that basically said, Julia, leaving Donovan Donovan Sherman. I'm finna combine names. Donovan McSherman. Donovan Sherman at the altar plummets Wade Pharmaceutical stocks. We switch to Van. He's having a flashback from when the wedding occurred. He basically got on a plane afterwards, stayed in a hotel, got kind of wasted. Next morning, sent pearls to Lena, and that was his way of kind of wiping his hands clean with his past. So we come back to the present. Van shows her the headline. She starts to think like maybe her parents might have something to do with this, especially being that she had given her mom that letter, basically saying if you tried to tank the stocks, X, Y, and Z would happen. She knows the Butlers are in on this some kind of way. She told him what Skylar had said, what Vicky had said, and things like that. So they're just trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Um, he told her that there's someone trying to buy or sell. He doesn't know yet. He's testing the waters to try and figure out what this other company is doing, because there's so many different shell companies and stuff like that. And he tells her like, I'm not gonna sell anything. Like, I wouldn't do that to you. I'm just testing the waters, basically, to try to pull out whoever it is that's behind this stuff. Um, he keeps going. It's just, it's got to be Logan or the Butlers, all this type of stuff. But at this point, I'm just like, you've done apparently a lot of dirt to different people. So who the freak else? It could be anybody. You know what I mean? I don't know if we should keep limiting it to these Butler people. I'm just saying. So she, of course, is ready to get back to her snow globe, and they were talking about the company, and he notices again the difference. She notices, I'm sorry, again, the difference between the two of them, right? How much Van listens to her, and it was just so different from what she experienced with Philip. And then Van is noticing how different how different Julia is from Madison. Like, certain stuff she just wouldn't deal with. Like, she's just not that type of person. She doesn't want to deal with, crazy stuff apparently. Like, she wants just simple all the time. And he does realize he was trying to force Madison into being something that he wanted, you know? Because naturally everybody does not want bigger and better. Everybody just doesn't want that. They get to the house, where the end of the property is. There's a huge gate. It's always been there, but now they're using the gate. There's been a lot of upgrades that Jonathan, the head security guy, has done, since they've been gone. They've got sensors and all this kind of stuff going on at this place. So Michael and Albert are going to stay the night in the house on the south side. They're thinking about accepting the position full time. If they do, then they'll stay in the guest house. And she asked him about Philip, and he says, because they're twins, like, isn't he still going to be able to get in? And he's kind of like, we don't have the identical DNA. You know what I mean? So there is a difference in fingerprints and stuff like that. She asked him who was older, and he goes, why does it matter? And she's like, I want to know. He's like, can we talk about this tomorrow? And again, after what she experienced, bitch, if I ask you a question, just fucking answer it. You owe me that. You should have told me before. But after what I just experienced, you owe me this. You know what I'm saying? So he never really answered her. They wound up going upstairs to their room now because she's moving into his room. And they got all hot and bothered and stuff. And so she's like, he asked if he had like forced himself on her or anything, and that didn't happen. And he's like, I'm so sorry, all this type of crap. Um, but again, I'm just upset that he's not telling her what she needs to know everything. I don't even care if you're tired. You need to talk. And so now I'm pissed off at her and him because she's not pushing for these questions. She's just trying to get back to her snow globe. And it's like, okay, now some other bullshit pop up. I don't feel bad for you because you're not trying to get the answers that you deserve to know. So she goes up to Van's room. It's much bigger than hers. Even though she had a nice sized room, but this thing is huge. Um, they did a little spanking and stuff, and she didn't know if she would be into it, but it made her super wet. So then they wind up having a nice hard fuck. And they had to kind of try and keep it quiet because there are other people in the house tonight. Next morning, she wakes up. Van's already out of the bed. He's going into work. Her stuff is there from Chicago. He's like, you can start with that. Margaret's gonna be here. Margaret's here. Miss Mayhan is gonna come in later. Um, Albert, Michael, Jonathan is the one I think that owns the security company, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. Um, but Michael and Albert, they're gonna stay temporarily, and they're gonna stay in the guest house. Um, he tells her, "You got your laptop." Her phone, her new phone is gonna be at his office. Miss Connie ordered it. Um, so he's like, "I'm gonna try and get that to you as soon as possible." He's like, "But if you want to talk to Vicky, just use the landline." So she, of course, did want to talk to her. They know that Philip, or yeah, they know that Philip slipped out not too long after uh, Mr. Arnold and Mrs. Rosemary told the dad what happened, the situation. She, of course, wants to still talk to Vicky. Their security code is going to be the day of the blizzard, which is 12/18, and then he tells her 1234 is like this emergency code. It'll get help there faster, quicker than 911. Um, she apparently had three questions she could ask him. So she asked him again if he was the oldest. He said he was the third. So Olivia's like, so you're a triplet? She's like, yeah, but we're not. He's like, Olivia it doesn't look like us. We're not identical. And he tells her, write a list with as many questions as you want, and then maybe we'll make it into a game. We'll do like strip poker or something, you know. And she says, I'm just gonna make sure I, dress in layers. So then he leaves, and she, of course, is like, hurry back. She's like, I know I'm safe. I just like having you near. Oh, another thing I forgot. She was telling him about um how when she looked into Philip's eyes, she didn't see the gold flecks. And she's always been so drawn to those gold flecks in his eyes. And so he called it gold lust. I always like when they tell us, the name of the book and they tell you kind of where that name is coming from. I just always think that's the cutest thing. Van goes into the office. Connie comes in and they have a talk. And he, of course, thanks her so much. He also apologizes that she got involved in this. Her husband, Eric, wanted to go to the police, but she was like, let's see how his security wants to handle this. He told her, Van told her, listen, if you feel like you need to go to police, you do that. You file a report. Apparently, some of the messages she had on her voicemail that he's been leaving. He was talking about her children, her grandchildren, all this type of shit, and he also said some stuff uh, about their personal past. Him and Phillips, and she's like, you might want to listen to the messages before you okay me to go to the police because it's some personal stuff. And he's like, okay, I'll go through the voicemails. So then he calls and talks to Greg, and Greg is like all upset because he's been getting text messages. So yesterday he got a message from Julia saying that Van is demanding the balloon payment and all this type of stuff. And so Greg is like, we'll put another lien on the house if we have to, and all this type of crap. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Julia's been sending me messages since yesterday when we left. And he's like, that's not possible. She's been with me. And they're like, but they're coming from her cell phone. So Greg was like, some really alarming things came through this morning, saying that she had been taken against her will, that she didn't want to marry you, and all this type of stuff. So now the Wisconsin State Patrol are involved based upon these messages. It looks like she's been taken against her will. So Connie had told him that she wasn't able to deactivate the phone because the phone is under her parents. Van is now like, okay, I'm headed to the house now. You'll be able to talk to her in 15 minutes. So he got Greg and he got her new cell phone and he's like, let's go. So Julia she took a shower, blow drying her hair, everything. She's thinking about the question she wants to ask him, wondering with that picture of Philip and Madison. Then she's like, okay, let me stop overthinking. We will talk, we'll deal with it. And then she hears like a bunch of voices. She hears commotion. Someone's coming towards the door, banging. Finally, Van comes in. He's like, why didn't you answer? She's like, I was blow drying my hair. What are you talking about? She's like, I came in here because in the old room, because that's most of her clothes were. And he's like, you need to call your father. And she's like, okay, well, what's going on? You just need to call your father. He's so fucking stupid. Why not say your father's been getting text messages from your old phone and they think you're in danger? But he doesn't do that. He just says, call your father. Call your father. So then she calls her father. He is like, oh my gosh, you okay? Is he forcing you to be there? And then the mom gets on the phone. The mom's like, the police are on their way. Accept their help. You don't have to be there if you don't want to. All this type of stuff. And so she's like, no, I'm fine. What are you talking about? Like, I've been with Van this whole time. Like, I don't have my phone. Philip has my phone. And he's the one sending the messages. And the dad's like, but the messages were demanding balloon payments and all this type of stuff. And again, if you would have just told her, she could have better dealt with that. Because what winds up happening, her parents, I'm not saying the phone call would have went 100%, like 100% differently. I'm not going to say that because her parents don't listen to her. That's the fucking problem. So she winds up getting frustrated and hanging up on them. But she could have maybe articulated better what was happening without sounding like probably someone that was being held against their will. You know what I'm saying? So she hangs up. The officers come over. They split them apart so they can talk to him separately. She tells the officer what happened. Of course, they still at first like, if you need help, and she's like, I'm fine. This is what happened. If you ping the phone, it'll tell you where the messages are coming from. So they leave. The officers later tell Van that the calls were pinging from Ironwood, which is somewhere in Michigan, which is like less than an hour away. But again, they don't know if is this person really in Michigan or is this person like somewhere else, but they're using a VPN. They don't know. She's tired. Um it's just like one thing after another with this. However, she does let him know this retaliation back and forth. She's like, this has got to stop. Like, this can't keep going. It keeps getting crazier and crazier. But again, she still hasn't asked for the whole story. And after everything that's going on, she's still not demanding that from him. And I'm like, that's stupidity to me on her part. Ain't that much trust in the world. So now the problem is they're going to have to contact the Michigan police and this will become a federal situation. So now it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. We switch back to Van's POV and he finds out from Jonathan that they have eyes on Philip. Philip is still in Chicago. Sends a picture and everything. So now it's like, okay, well, who the hell is sending these messages? So he gets a call from Lena. He had also gotten an email from Greensphere, someone named Ashley from Greensphere. And the company that made, they also find out the company that made a deposit into Philip's bank account was from MMT. No idea who that is. They're trying to figure this out, him and Lena, while they're on the phone. Um, Lena, of course, is like trying to dig too. She's like, I'll see what else I can find. He tells her what happened. He makes the uh he tells her uh where Philip is, and he's trying to, you know, he knows Philip is trying to fuck with Julia some type of way. And then Lena says, you know, it seems like he's trying to fuck with her physically too. You know, she was just being honest. You know, she says, hell, that's what you did towards the end. Remember, he went in there and fucked Madison. So, she does say that she feels like she has been a shitty sister. She needs to try and do better. She's gonna go and see her, and then she's going. Then she says, "Wait a minute." She says, "Don't you think it's a coincidence that the company MMT are Madison's initials, Madison Montgomery Thomas?" And I'm like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, if this turns out to be Madison's ass, this is gonna get crazier and crazier because she's already not wrapped the tightest, you know, and we still don't have that complete story. Oh, this is just gonna be crazy, but I love it. So then, Julia, Margaret, they're getting stuff put away. They talk, and Julia winds up telling her why the state patrol was there because Margaret had asked, and she, of course, thinks about them like not wanting them to be caught off guard, being that he has a brother that looks identical, but they already knew. So she knows Phillips looks just like him. So I said, well, at least that's good to know, right? But that sucks that they know, but you don't tell me. You know, that's crazy. So she tells her that they want to get married in a week in the cabin, and she finds out Wisconsin has a 6 week waiting period. No, I'm sorry, I said that so wrong. A 6 day waiting period. So it's Friday, so they need to try and get to the courthouse today before they close at 4:30. We switch to Van's POV. They go to the courthouse. They apply for the license, and then she wants to have some alone time, just them at the cabin. And he's like, "Well, I gotta at least tell Michael X, Y, and Z." I don't find it cute that the next day after this happened, you want to do this. I just don't think it's wise. But anyway, I digress. Um, she's clearly somebody who is, you know, stuck in fairy tale land and does not want to come out of that fucking bubble, aka her snow globe. But I'm like, girl, you fucking up. But anyway, so they're gonna order some food from a place in town and muffins and stuff for the morning, and they're on their way back. She makes a comment of the what ifs, like what if she would have actually married Skylar, like if, because the plan apparently they think was for her to be left at the altar by Van, and then wind up marrying Skylar. Crazy. So he slams on the brakes or whatever, pulls over, and it's just like, you're safe now. It didn't happen. You know, you're never gonna be unsafe again. Which I'm like, I don't know about that. There's a car in the rear view and it slows down, and she's looking like, why is this car slowing down? And he's like, it's snowing. You know, people want to be safe, stuff like that. They get back on track. They're pulling up to the cabin, and right away they can see that there is a pummel of smoke that's like going up, and he's like, how's that possible? So he also sees tire tracks. He doesn't know if these are fresh or if this is like before they left Chicago and they've now just, you know, been stuck there. So he tells her to stay in the car, in the truck, lock the doors, but she's not staying in the truck. I wouldn't stay in no truck by myself either. Somebody could easily bust the fucking windows, you know? So she gets her ass out the truck. She's like, "No, I'm coming with you," you know? And I didn't blame her on that one. And she, of course, is like, "You think someone's in there?" He's like, "That's what I'm trying to find out." She follows him. They go in the cabin. You can clearly see someone's been there. Like the decorations have been burnt in the fireplace. Um, there's a dent in the pillow. There's dishes in the sink. Different stuff to let you know like someone's been here. And now she's scared. And now she's like, "Take me back to the house." She thinks she sees someone outside, but he didn't see him, so they leave. They get back to the house. Miss Mahan is still there. She's like, he says he's gonna go and talk to Albert. He wants to make sure that it gets locked up out there, the cabin and stuff, because there's no lock on it. So he's like, we need to get that secure. So then while he's talking to Albert, Julia is talking to Miss Mayhem, aka Paula. And Paula, of course, says, he's a complicated man. She's thinking they're having a fight. She's like, no, 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 no. She says what happened. Paula's like, well, it would be, we've been telling him to try to keep that place secure for a while, but he leaves it open in case someone is in need. And so Will, what did she say? She's still scared, of course. That would freak anybody out, knowing somebody, especially this place you hold with such high regard, your snow globe. You know, it freaked her out. But I just didn't understand why she wanted to be there. I just didn't. I was like, listen, create your little snow globe in y'all room in the big ass house. Like being outside in the elements, no electricity. No, especially after what happened. It just that doesn't seem safe. But now she glad she in the, she's glad she's in the house. So she was saying to her about him changing, and that's a good thing because Julia's like, I'm not trying to change him, but she was saying, listen, sometimes change is good for people. It's not always a bad thing. We switch to Van's POV, and even though he wants to be completely honest with Julia, he doesn't want to scare her either. So he was told by Albert that they were kind of concerned when it came to that guest house too, because it wasn't anything overtly, but they could tell someone had been there. There had been like subtle clues throughout. Someone had been there. Um, he goes in to Julia. She's tired. He locks the bathroom. He locks the door to the room. They go in the bathroom. He strips her, and of course, she's like, "I don't want to get in the big bathtub all by myself." So he strips, and then she winds up sucking him off. He comes down her throat, and then he fingers her until she comes. And of course, they're just getting started. But before she was about to suck him off, her brain was kind of like, no, I'm sorry, his brain. He started thinking of the what ifs, and she could kind of see that his mind was like somewhere else, and she was like, come back to me, like focus, like come back to the present. The next 48 hours they haven't left the bedroom suite. He would go get food and stuff, and sometimes he'd sneak behind this little area to where like he had a little office set up, and he would do some work and stuff like that. And she feels like her mental health is probably declining because she's not asking or telling him how the what ifs are plaguing her massively. And so when they wake up the next morning, or no, maybe not. I think they were drinking wine. It could have been in the morning. Who knows? So she's ready to fuck again. Of course, he's like, oh God. So she didn't ask the question about Madison. He told her that they met in a coffee shop, and he told her basically what happened to her in the storm. Like if that had happened to Madison, they would have found her dead inside the car. Like she just doesn't have that type of ability to want to go out and do more, I guess. So she's not a survivor, is basically what he's saying. He says, you're nothing like her, X, Y, and Z. And she couldn't ask too many questions because then once he starts to shut down. And he is on that, I don't want to think about my past, I just want to concentrate on the future. And I'm like, here we go again with this stupid shit. She doesn't push him. She accepts it. And so she's so busy again trying to stay in this fucking snow globe. I'm like, this is going to get your ass fucked up in the end. It is. Because this is just my guess. It's like the secrets have already affected her, right? And the fact that now the security guys, okay, they know who they're looking for, right? They know who's out there. But still, she needs to be asking questions. I want to know everything. I want to know every fucking thing you've done that could possibly make someone have you as an enemy. I need to know this because clearly I'm bait. So if I'm bait, I need to know where the threats can be coming from. And I just think it's such a disservice to her to not have that information. But she's doing this to herself because she doesn't want to break the snow globe. So then I can't feel sorry for you if some shit goes down. I just can't. Van goes to work, but on his way there, he stopped by the cabin and it straightened up. But what he saw in the fireplace were the remnants of the decorations, but they should have been long gone. So it wasn't that. It's hard. He looks, pearls. He's like, nah, I'm tripping. That can't be. But they're pearls. So he leaves, goes to work. He had gotten confirmation that Philip was back in San Antonio. He had a layover in Phoenix, but he's back in San Antonio. So then he gets in. His first virtual meeting is with the Ashley woman from Green Sphere. They talk, and this is her offer. So she starts to describe the vision for the company. Basically, they want to take a lot of smaller pharmaceutical companies and make it into a much bigger one for the future. You know, pharmaceutical, that industry is changing, and Wade is just a dinosaur when it comes to that. And you know, the projections had it to where Wade was going to be done for in 18 months. But when Sherman and Madison invested, that had that gave a few more months of life to it, but it also put a bunch of interest into the company as well. So they want him to invest in GreenSphere, but what they also want is that they want the total of 65%, which is what will be had once they get married and Julia has access to her shares. It's going to be 65%. And they want a decision in a week. Kind of funny. They're getting married in a week. So then again, we got to be real. When you apply for a marriage license, that is public record. You know what I'm saying? So if anyone's looking into anything, they could find it. Now I'm starting to wonder, is this Madison or is this Lena? Like, you know, like I'm trying to figure this out because he still thinks it's Logan and Marlon. I don't think it's them anymore. I could be wrong, but I feel like this feels more deviant. Like this is coming from someone that is possibly closer to you. And it's like they want to give him a seat on the board and all this type of shit. I don't know. I'm just, oof, I want to figure this out. Because I'm like, why not just want to accept an investment from fucking Donovan Sherman? He's loaded. This is his thing with investments. Why not just want him to invest? But they want a part of this. So I don't know. It's wild. The woman also did say, Ashley, that they did make offers to the substantial shareholders as well. So again, I'm just ready to figure this out. Van has a flashback to about 5 years after Madison and Philip got married. He hadn't talked to her, nothing like that. He kept tabs on them because he just wanted to know stuff. Um, but that was it. So he gets a knock on his door. It's Madison. He, of course, is like, why are you here? She was like, can I come in? And he was on this really, big high because he had closed this really big deal. His wealth at this point had grown substantially. And so she's like, invite me in. At first, he's like, again, what do you want? So eventually he lets her come in. And she says, kind of, I don't want to say playing a little game, but she's kind of working up to what she's there to ask for. And so she says, like, Philip apparently thinks that she's with Lena, and Lena knows to say that that's where she is. So Lena knows where she is. And she was like, she came because Philip has been having a hard time. Like, he doesn't make that much money. And she thinks, something could possibly help him. And he's thinking money. He's like, you could get a few $100,000 from Lena, like, today. And she's like, no, 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 it's not that. It's not that. She's like, we haven't been able to get pregnant. So he, of course, is like, what does that have to do with me? And she's like, well, she wanted, like, she pulled a cup out. She wanted his specimen. He's like, well, you don't know if I can conceive. We might have the same problem. And she says, well, that's not true. Like, I know you can. He says, how do you know? So she was pregnant when she wanted to go down to San Antonio initially. She was pregnant. And she got rid of it because she wasn't ready to have a baby. She says, but now she's ready. I'm like, oh my gosh. We also find out him with that piano. She used to love hearing him play the piano. Makes sense of why he kept it. Um, he of course is like, I'm not jacking off in a fucking cup. He said, if you want a baby, it's gonna be done the old fashioned way. He said, what did he tell her? She of course was like, you can't have any claims to the baby, all that type of shit. He says, here's the deal. You have to stay here, and you have to stay here until there's a positive test. So she agreed. He was rude to her. He was like mean to her and stuff like that. I mean, because he told her, well, get on your knees. Let's see if you're even worth it. And she was like, you don't have to be cruel. But I'm like, you're married and, you made your fucking choice. You coming to him wanting him to do this grand gesture when you chose somebody else. I'm just saying, I'm probably not going to be the nicest to you either. Like, why does he have to be so loving towards you when you rejected him? Like, come on. So, but she got on her fucking knees because she wants that baby. And you know what? I think she knew that that was Van that night. I think she knew. Because you know what? If Julia sees the golden specks in his eyes, I know damn well she did. So I think she knew she was fucking Van. That's my little rant. We switch back to Julia and Albert or Mike, I can't remember. I think it was Albert. They went with her and Paula down to the cabin, kind of going over ideas and stuff like that. She wanted something simple. They did give her some history of the cabin. It was like over 200 years old, all this kind of stuff. She's gonna go into the city to get her own dress. She's gonna do it by herself. Well, with a security person, and they'll handle the other stuff. So Albert took her into town. She got a call from Vicky. She talks to her. She had written Vicky a really long text message explaining that whole Philip situation. Um, and of course, the whole thing is just crazy. So she told her they're getting married this Saturday. She wants her to come. Vicky's like, she'll try. Um, she tells her, listen, if you need a plane, whatever you need, like, we could get you here, it would be great. I need you here. She asked if her parents were going to be there, and she's like, no, they'll find out afterwards. Um, Even though she didn't know that it was Van, because because that's what Vicky was like. She didn't know that that it wasn't Van. She said but that's not the point. She wouldn't listen to me. She even told me that I was prostituting myself out for Wade. Like, no, I don't want that. I don't want her energy here. No. So Vicky was like, okay, I get it. That's fine. She's like, because she didn't know that part. Um, so she's like, okay, I'll let you know if I can or not. So then she goes to look for a dress. Julia's home by herself. Van's been working a lot. He doesn't come home until like after the sunset. And so she's been knee deep in new research and stuff, financials of weight, pharmaceuticals, and all that type of stuff. It feels like someone's watching her. And she's like, that's not possible. But then the door, the alarm gets disarmed. And but it's Van. He just came on home early. He told her he felt like he had been kind of neglecting her a little bit, and he wanted to, take her out on the snowmobile. And so, um, he had gotten her a snowmobile suit and everything, and so they went out on the frozen water. And when they came back, they went to the cabin. It's all nice. It's locked now. Miss Mahan had put food in there and stuff. So they're going to spend their night out there, and that made her really happy. And she felt like, this is like the best feeling, being in this cabin with him after the whole debacle with Philip, just cherishing the space. There's just, she loves it, absolutely loves being in her snow globe. We then go back to the time where Madison was staying at the house with him. And so she stayed there until she got pregnant. So she was probably there for a couple months. So I'm just kind of like, I'm a little shook with that. Because how the fuck she's staying somewhere for 2 months and her husband don't know? Like, I don't, I don't get this. This is weird to me. But anyway, she had a bad morning sickness and stuff like that. And she she painted a lot, things like that. But he saw how she digressed. It's like she clearly had issues. Like, she would be super happy and then she'd have these bouts when she was just really low. So it sounds like she has depression. Um, she would then tell him how nothing's changed. She's going back to Lip. That's what they call Philip, Lip. That's her life. That's where she belongs. She could never do the winters in Ashland. She's like, I could never survive this. She needs springtime, light, and stuff like that. She's just a different breed, and she clearly is. She does have some mental issues. But she wouldn't get help. She felt like having the baby, whatever was going on with her, was gonna make it okay. And we already know right there, whether you think a baby will save a relationship or yourself, it's gonna be a problem. So he showed her the new house, which is where he currently is. And she at first didn't want to see it. He begged her. He just wanted her to see the new house. It was stunning. That was what she said. But it's not something she wanted. He showed her this room where she could paint and a space for the nursery. But again, she said she's going back to live. And so, he's on his way to come and get her. So I guess he does know where she is now. And he told her that the baby and her would always be welcome at the new house. And he told her where he would keep the key and all this type of crap, right? And so after Philip came and got her, Van never lived in that other house again. He moved into the new house that night. He didn't even have any furniture, but he just never wanted to spend another moment in that house where he had spent those months with Madison. So Van wakes up, he's having nightmare, and he woke up in a cold sweat. He didn't know if it was like just memories or just a bad dream. He didn't know. He's thankful to have Julia by his side. The next morning they get up. This is their wedding day. She told him, everything that tried to break our snow globe, you fixed. And she loves her snow globe. They have a nice hard fuck when they get back to the house. And then he brings up a couple things. He tells her about the prenup to sign. She's like, I don't want your money. He's like, I know, but it's to protect you as well and all this type of stuff. And he basically is going to give her all his shit. Like, everything's up to, like, she can take everything. That's how he feels. And so that's what the documents say. He tells her about the Green Sphere deal. And apparently they don't know for sure, but there's a possibility that her grandfather, that freaking will, was doctored. So apparently the problem is, if it comes out to be true, that means everything in it's going to be invalid. So with the prenup, how he has it set up is that she can sell him the shares, and then those can't be touched. She's upset. She's like, you lied, you're keeping stuff. But I'm like, do you really care? Because you still ain't trying to get all of the information that you need. So it's like, aren't we used to him withholding information from you? I'm just saying. Why we acting like this new? Just saying. He tells her, I'm trying to think of a way that you don't lose Wade Pharmaceuticals. If you don't want to deal with it anymore, you want to sell, we can. He says, if you want to try and, help your parents, you can. If you want to let them flounder, you can. It is all about what you want. And she's like, I don't understand. What are you getting out of this? And he says, you. She goes downstairs, reads through it, the prenup. She winds up signing it. She's like, this is the last time I'm going to sign this name, Julia McGrath. He tells her he's got a surprise for her. She goes to the door. It's Vicky. She's so excited, so happy because she didn't know she was coming. And Van had found out that night that she was coming, so he wanted to surprise her. They talk a little bit, and Van had told her he would have a bridesmaid dress for her. And so Margaret shows up, and sure enough, she's got the bridesmaid's dress for her. And she's like, oh my gosh, like you really did think of everything. So then we switch back to Van, and he's looking through some documents, the will, and the one that they have on file. Someone named McCook, I think, is the one that filed it. And it was signed the day before Herman died. So he died on the 16th of April, and this is dated for April 15th. Kind of odd. Apparently, there was another will, apparently, with Wade Pharmaceuticals legal team. Some kind of way Logan's signature is on there, so got to figure out what the fuck's going on with that. Um, and he went ahead and he signed the prenup as well, sent it over to his lawyer. So then Michael came in and told him that he got confirmation to that Philip is in San Antonio with the sister Olivia and the baby Brooklyn. So then Michael told him that he had sent out and did a DNA testing on the spoon that was found, because remember there were dishes left in the cabin, and it's not a male, it's a female. So Michael's like, at least we know it's not Philip, but he's like, it could be a homeless person or a wanderer or something, but I think it's fucking Madison. That's my guess. And Van was like, I just don't want to have any uninvited guests. Julie's getting ready for the wedding. She was talking to Vicky and Margaret and saying how someone had helped her pick out the dress. It wasn't Sally, because Margaret's like, was it Sally? And she's like, no, it was someone else. It was someone she had seen at the cafe. And Margaret was like, oh, okay, but well, she hooked you up. She did great. So she had got like this, it's a spaghetti strap dress, but there's this cape that goes over it, and it has this like hoodie over it, so she looks like a snow queen. And Vicky described it as Queen of the North, like Game of Thrones. And then there was a headpiece to go with it, in a separate box. And so when she opened the box, there was the headpiece which had a pearl in it, but then there's another box in it. And so they're like, well, maybe Van, snuck something in there. And she's like, I hope not, because I wanted it to be a surprise for him. It was a pearl necklace. And then Vicky's like, isn't that what the Philip guy gave you at the house? And she's like, yeah, but I left that at the house. Like, I didn't keep that. And she's like, I'm not going to wear it, because I don't need it. So then Margaret went to go check if Albert was there. And when she went downstairs, she found a bottle of champagne with a note, but it wasn't signed. It just says, dreams come true. So Van's leaving out to go down to the cabin, but before he does, Albert gives him an envelope. He said that someone had dropped it off and they left it. So he's like, all right. He gets in his truck. He's headed down. He gets a call from Lena, and he stopped because, once he gets too close to the cabin, he doesn't have any type of reception. So he answers the phone, and he's like, I'm sorry, I'll make it up to you. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he thought she was going to be talking about the fact that she wasn't invited to the wedding. But she was talking about the fact that she went to the facility where Madison was supposed to be, and the bitch ain't there. She has checked herself out a month ago, and apparently her and Philip are MIA. He's like, I got confirmation that he's in San Antonio, and he's with Olivia in Brooklyn as well. And Lena's like, I just talked to Olivia. Olivia says no one has tried to make contact with Brooklyn, neither one of her parents. She's like, I'm sorry. He's like, oh, shoot. So that's when he opens up the envelope, and there's a note from Madison, and it says, you told me if I ever wanted to leave, I had to show you divorce papers. Um, and so here are the divorce papers. Um, she says that, you know, I shouldn't have gone through with the wedding. We were supposed to be together. We're a family, you, me, and Brooklyn. And he goes, "Oh shit, she knows how to get in the house, cause he took her fucking there and put that key in the place that only she knows where it is, and clearly he's never removed it." So then he tells Lena, I gotta go." He gets off the phone and he calls Albert and he's like, "Where's Julia?" And he's like, "Oh, she's still in the house. She said it'll be a few more minutes." He's like, "Get to her now." He's like, "There's a woman in the house. It's Philip's ex-wife." So he's racing back in the truck to get up to the house. We switch back to Julia. Margaret has dropped her glass. Vicky's dropped the glass. They're out of it. She's only had a little bit of champagne, but her hands are starting to shake. Then the woman comes in that she met at the shop that helped her pick out the dress. She's like, "What are you doing here?" And the woman's like, "Why aren't you wearing your pearls?" And she goes and tries to splash some water on her face. Julia does. And she's like, "Van," she's like, "my wedding." And the woman says, "You need to rest." And she's asking, "Who are you? Who are you?" And the woman says, "I'm the one and only person that Van has ever loved." And she says, "You know who I am." Everything looks distorted. And then the woman says, "I'm Madison." And that's how it ends. So the final book in this series, which is going to wrap it all up, is Black Knight, and we're going to dive into that next week. What did you all think? I loved and hated it because it had me on pins and needles because I want to know the full story, and it's like we're just getting these bits and pieces of everything. And again, he didn't tell her about Madison, about Brooklyn. All of that was essential. Those are things I feel she should have known before they got married. It's bad enough you didn't tell the full thing with Philip, but you should have told her about Madison. And now look, here we go again, where someone's going to get to her and she doesn't know. Well, I guess the woman probably changed her appearance, because I'm like, you did see a picture of her. But maybe she looks a little different. It has been like, I don't know, 10, 15 years or something like that. So, I mean, it's been a long time since that picture. So, maybe she looks a lot different. I don't know. But again, she should have been more prepared, and she wasn't. And so, again, I blame both of them though, because she wasn't trying to ask enough questions. She would accept him denying her the answers. And so that wasn't okay on her part. After what she went through, I felt like she should have demanded more answers. So let me know what you guys think. Drop down in the comment section and let me know. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available, and the links are available down below in the description section. Thank you so much for listening, for your support. Make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure you share. And as always, I truly thank you all for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.